Hey everybody, Mike Roberts here. I'm a teacher, instructional coach, and author based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. And for the next about 20 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about online learning or distance learning or hybrid learning or whatever you're calling it. That's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about some strategies that I really think can help the process as you're going along. And I think what's surprising is a lot of these same ideas are still useful within the live classroom. You just got to tweak it a little bit. So give me a second here to share my screen with you all, and then I will blow it up. And again, similar to all my other presentations, I have a little link here where you can get the presentation itself, as well as a handout where I summarize everything into a one-page little document there. So if interested, you'll see it right there at the bottom, right down here. And I will also be showing this again on the last slide. So 2020, right? I know. You got the coronavirus over here. You got Kobe Bryant's death. You got murder hornets. Here in Utah, we had a sweet little earthquake going on. I mean, it has just been a crazy, crazy year. And on top of that, teaching as we knew it has changed. All right. It's our once crowded classrooms have now been turned into, these semi-crowded Zoom screens and all that hands-on learning we've done suddenly has been replaced by digital learning and things like that. And it's easy to get frustrated and upset about the situation. And this leaves you basically with two options. I mean, you can either resist or you can adapt. And I know a lot of us are kind of in that in between where we're resisting having to adapt, but hopefully you're starting to adapt because that's what needs to be done as a teacher. We've been dealt this tough hand, and sometimes you got to bluff your way through it. And for a lot of us, that's what we're doing right now. We're not sitting on a good hand that we're going to win all the money. Sometimes you just got to fake it till you make it. And that's hopefully this video will give you some ideas that will help you do a little bit better than just faking it, having some strategies in your back pocket where you can pull these out and hopefully make the most of a rough situation. So again, here are 9 strategies for distance, hybrid, online, whatever terminology you're using to help you be a little better at that game. So number 1, bring the mojo. All right, we got to make lemonade out of this situation here, my friends. So you got to be smiling more. You got to be having that inflection. You got to be the one who's telling your students and modeling that for your students that, hey, we're making the best of this situation. Because I think most of us would agree in-class learning is the route that is better for us and our students. And, to sit there and say that, though, you don't want to say that. You want to say, hey, we're going to make the best of the situation. And when we get back in class, it's going to be great. But you got to make sure you are projecting, just like in class. You are the one who kind of sets that tone and that mood. Please bring the mojo, like my man Austin Powers here says in the little meme there. Number 2, you got to be proactive. All right. There's Mr. T telling you he pities the fools who aren't proactive. Look, things are going to fall apart. Okay, things are going to fail. You got to be prepared for when those happen. All right. At my school, we have live sessions, where students are here, but then we also have online classes where the kids are learning online. And we also have the hybrid where kids can come and go and then be online. And so there's a lot going on. So what I try to do, we did this week in my class, in fact, even in the live session, I'm walking them through, okay, here's what happens if we happen to go online. Or here's what happens if you're not coming to school next week, where you're being proactive rather than hitting that panic button when it happens, because it's going to happen. And I'm not saying, it's going to happen for everybody all at once, but I am saying you're going to have these glitches in technology. You're going to have these things fall apart. And the more you can prepare and say, okay, if you go to get into Zoom and it's not there, then go to Canvas or whatever system you use here and look it up. And here's the link that will take you where you need to be. And really spend that time walking them through these kind of things. And a lot of times teachers say, well, at this point of the year, students should know how to do that. I totally agree. But if we were in our regular classroom at this time of year, students should know how to bring a pencil. Students should know how to be on time. Students should know how to listen appropriately. And yet they still struggle with that kind of stuff. And we help them by giving them reminders and running through some of these things again and again and again. So try to be as proactive as you can in prepping for things and taking that next step, even if you don't have to take that next step quite yet. Next, remember you're not in the classroom anymore. Going online isn't as simple as just taking what you did in the classroom and then suddenly, hey, here's all the work. You have to adjust. You have to adapt to the needs of your students. And this means, maybe you're removing some assignments, or you're redoing some assignments in a different way, or you're having your students break up into smaller groups instead of bigger groups, and you're meeting with them more one-on-one. What you don't want to have happen is, if we're online, we're doing exactly the same thing as in class, because class has a lot of different aspects to it in terms of being able to communicate with each other and be able to read the room and the supplies you have, and to say, well, all that's going to be available at their houses, that's a little tough to say. Also, you want to make sure that you're not doing the opposite, where you suddenly say, okay, well, then we're just going straight online. Because again, in my situation, I am teaching online as well as live. And so I don't want my students in my class to just sit there and be typing on the computer doing all online stuff. And this is where it's hard this year. It is. And I'm not going to say these things are going to solve all your problems, but try to find ways to adapt. And that might mean taking things off your plate a little bit. Doing that nightly homework every single day. Hey, maybe you can do it every other day and still have the learning take place. And I think for a lot of us, it's just breaking routine, because we're so used to doing things a certain way that when it changes, we try to just make that change fit in the way we're most comfortable. So take that in with a grain of salt, because it's going to be hard no matter what. But try to find some little ways to adjust so you're fitting the needs of both your live students, if you're dealing with live students, as well as your online students. Hey, if they're online, let them talk, please. In class, we let them talk. We do. We have them do turn and talks, and we have them stand up and present and all that stuff. Look, let them talk in the chat box. Let them talk in breakout rooms. Let them talk within the whole class setting. I think it's important, especially when you're separated from your friends, that you give them opportunities to connect. And I simply let my students know, look, I read what's in the chat box. It's not like a secret. So, and right there instantly is like, okay, that kind of filters it a little bit. But it's okay. I mean, in your classroom, kids are joking around and come on, give them a chance to talk. I'm not saying that you want a free for all by any means, but to shut down the chat box and say, I must have this, this, and this, and all cameras on, and no pets in the room and things like that. I think that's getting a little tough for kids. And so I think we need to try to make the best of the situation and make it more comforting and more familiar, rather than saying, no, we're not going to talk at all. So please, 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 for the sake of your students, give them a chance to talk to one another. Create a daily routine. I love this meme. It's a dude sitting in the shower or sitting in the bathroom holding on to the shower curtain there like he's in the subway. But discuss what your class is going to be like at the beginning of each session to reinforce as many daily routines as possible. And this is one that a lot of us do in our live classes as well, where, we'll say, hey, today, here's the plan, here's our learning target, da, 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 da. Do that same thing online and on a Zoom session and whatever situation you're in, and reinforce. We talked about this a couple slides ago, but reinforce. Here's where you find the homework, and here's where you input your questions, and here's how you use the chat box. And I mean, again, this is new. This is new for us. This is new for the students. This is new for parents. And so the more you can reinforce it, so it just becomes a little more normalized for them, I think the better off it'll be, and you'll cut back on all those random emails about, wait, where's the homework assignment? And again, it does eat into a few minutes, but if you can just constantly reinforce, just like we would in the classroom, doing the same thing online, I think would really benefit the students and the learning and their comfort level with what's going on for a situation that's very, very different for a lot of our students and what they're used to. Please break the learning into small chunks. All right. So many of us do this in person. Okay. I challenge you, though, to break it up in even smaller chunks when teaching online. There are a lot more distractions at home. And I know this sounds weird to say, but there's a lot more distractions at home and a lot more things that can steer students away because they can have that phone out and, playing on the phone just like that. Where in a classroom, we can say, hey, get the phone away, let's refocus. Online, it's tough to tell the difference between, are they, just looking down at the screen or are they looking down at a phone? So break it up into smaller chunks, keep it fresh every few minutes. Excuse me. Every few minutes, try something new. The more you can keep it fresh, the less likely students will be to disengage from the learning. Excuse me. The key is to read the room. You gotta know, just like in the classroom, if you start seeing students, not making that eye contact with you or starting to get up and leave, I always say if you have students who start going to the bathroom, that's a sign to start changing things up. Same thing with online learning. If you have students who suddenly are getting up and leaving, you've probably spent too much time on that topic and you'll want to change things up. So try to break it up into smaller chunks even than you would within the classroom. And again, I know that's hard, and I really do, and I appreciate the extra effort we are all putting into to make this happen. But I think that will help you keep the students engaged, which is ultimately our goal. Please balance synchronous and asynchronous learning. You want to have everybody together for some things, but you also want to give them a chance to work independently. And again, this is very similar to how we do it in our classrooms. The only difference is a lot of us are afraid, yes, but if they're in breakout rooms, I won't know what they're doing. Look, you got to have some trust in your students. And so when you do put them in the breakout rooms, give them enough work that's going to keep them busy. Ask them, here's 5 questions, and we have 5 minutes in this group. So you want to make sure you over plan. What you don't want to have happen is, hey, here's 5 questions and take 20 minutes to talk about it. That's where things start going sideways a little bit because kids get bored and, if you're not there, they're just going to kind of wander off. And if you say, hey, I'm going to be checking in, we got 5 minutes, so we got to grind through these 5 questions. If you do happen to get done with those 5 questions, here's 2 other questions you can do. So you want to make sure you have, here's enough, and then here's even a backup plan for more, just in case people are able to bust through it quickly. Look at breakout rooms. I write it right down here as your own little online turn and talk. Give them those opportunities. I mean, I use breakout rooms sometimes for like 2 or 3 minutes. Just hit random and boom, boom, off they go, 2 or 3 minutes, and then we're back. And then we share again. So there's ways to use it that is beneficial and productive, and it gives them enough time to answer the question, but you don't want to give them enough time that they start losing interest. Try to follow up with missing students. This is another big one, and this is one that I have struggled with this year, especially with those kids who are online and you're not seeing them, necessarily face to face, and it's easy to lose track of them. And, in our in-person classes, if a kid's gone for a day or two, we kind of start figuring out, okay, why? What's going on here? We're asking the office, we're emailing, we're checking in on the kid. But for online stuff, it just seems really easy to just kind of forget about the kid. And so I would recommend follow up as often as you can. And don't wait until it's, 4 or 5 days that they're gone and then reach out to them. Because those 4 or 5 days, man, that's 4 or 5 days of work that they may have been missing. And then when they come back, well, they're back, but they're actually 4 or 5 days behind. And so with online students, it's even more essential that we keep them engaged in what's going on, just to make sure, they're showing up to the Zoom sessions, they're keeping up with their nightly homework or whatever format you have, because you don't want to lose that kid, because it's even harder to get them back when they're not coming to you automatically the next day like they would be in a traditional school setting. And last, my friends, and this is a big one, cut yourself some slack. Look, there's a pandemic going on, my friends, all right? And your best right now probably isn't the best it's ever been. All we're looking for is for you to be trying your best and doing what you can to have an effective classroom. And so I think I think a lot of teachers are giving students the benefit of the doubt. And we understand that students might not be able to turn in their best work and that students might be struggling with some things. We need to look at ourselves that same way. It's okay. You're going to have some days that, again, you're not teacher of the year. Hey, it's all right. Just cut yourself some slack. And that goes back to earlier, not everything that they turn in has to be graded, maybe, or maybe you're not giving out as much work. And that project that, oh, you love doing that project, but it's a lot of work, maybe you scale back a little bit here. And maybe you take some time in class to connect with students' social and emotional needs rather than just going straight curriculum all the time. So there are ways to cut yourself some slack that I think are beneficial to you and your students, which might not hurt the curriculum all that much. But because we're so used to doing it and we have such high standards for ourselves and in the classroom, well, this is how I do it. We're not in the classroom right now, at least all the time, and at least all our students. I mean, again, everybody's doing all kinds of different things right now. So again, take this one and adjust it as need be. But you got to remember, it's a different time and it's a different world right now than it was a year ago. And you got to cut yourself some slack because this is new. I mean, we're all kind of first year teachers here, and just think, what you were like your first year versus what you're like your 10th year or 20th year. You know a lot more your 10th year or 20th year than you do your first year. And it's ridiculous for a 10th year teacher to look at a first year teacher and say, well, how do you not know this? And right now, even those 10 and 20 and 30 year teachers are that first year teacher. And so you got to cut yourself some slack and realize you are doing the best you can given the situation. All right. I ended it too soon. Let me put that back up there real fast because I got to put up my contact information. Maybe I'll just tell you. Well, let me put it up there just to make sure. Hold on, because I don't want to give you some bad info. All right, let's go to this last slide real fast. Ooh, that is the last slide. There we go. So there's my contact information. You can reach me at thebaldenglishteacher.com. I have some articles on there. I have some free resources for you. If you have questions about any of this stuff that we talked about, you can email me at thebaldenglishteacher@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you about things you tried from this session that worked. And I'd love to hear from you about things that you tried that didn't work and any suggestions you might have to help it improve. Or if you want to ask me questions like I tried this, what would you suggest? Please reach out. I think as teachers, we need, especially in this time of life that we're living, we need to be willing to reach out and share our resources. And so anything you have, any questions you have, I'm happy to try to answer at least. And then social media, you can find me at at Bald Roberts on Twitter. I am happy to interact with you in any of those with any questions you might have. And finally, there are the links to the slides. So all these slides you can find right there. And the handout you can find right down there. And again, I condense everything down to a little one-page handout for those of you who like the old school, handout. So there it is, my friends. It is a crazy time, and you have to realize that, and you have to be comfortable enough to realize that things are different, and it's not going to be perfect every time. And we got to cut our students some slack. We got to cut ourselves some slack. We got to make some adjustments to those things that we've done for years to make it fit right now. It's hard. It is. And you're doing a great job. I know you are. Just keep grinding. Just keep grinding and doing your best and picking up any little tips and tricks you can find from videos like these or from colleagues or from articles. We're just trying to make it through. Okay. That's all you're going for. That I'm just trying to be better. Just try to get a little bit better every single day. You're not the master at this. It's okay that you're not the master at this. You're just trying your best. So please take these tips, share them with others. If you have questions, let me know. But ladies and gentlemen, even during a pandemic, I argue teaching is the coolest job in the world. We're changing things. We're making a difference. And the things you say and do, whether it's on a video like this or live with students, those things are going to make a difference. And something you say or do could last decades and generations, where that kid, it really sticks with them and they pass that down and they pass that down and they pass that down. Use it to your advantage. and just keep fighting the good fight, my friends. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the Bald English teacher. My name is Mike Roberts. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you're doing. Hang in there, and I hope you have a great rest of your school year. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.